it's overwhelming, but it's also our jobs.
Our job is only going to get harder.
It's worrisome.
This is something that's unprecedented.
Now is not the time to be a cowboy. No one has anything to prove. We're all in this together.
Welcome to Reporting from the Front Line of a Pandemic. I'm Natalie Clydesdale, and I'm here with Ali Reid, a reporter from WFMZ in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Thanks, Ali, for joining me.
Thanks, Natalie, for having me on today.
I know it's been a super crazy time for you, so I really appreciate it.
Of course. Anything that I can do to help you guys, I'm always willing to help.
Thanks. My first question is, how have you had to adjust the way that you work?
Well, a lot has changed. The fact that journalism is already an evolving industry is a lot to begin with, right? But now we are tasked with bringing on this whole new pandemic that we've never had to deal with before. So a lot of it is learning things for the very first time together because we have never had to do something like this before. So, at first it was make sure you're just washing your hands and using soap and water. We included hand sanitizer in our trucks. That was kind of step one because we just didn't know enough about it to really do anything else besides that. And then obviously as news progressed and we started to learn more together as we were reporting on it, we realized it was going to be more than just having hand sanitizer in our trucks. From there, it kind of evolved into something even more. It was figuring out how certain reporters can only work with a limited amount of photographers so that we weren't spreading in case one person did end up getting it. What does that mean for the rest of the newsroom? So that would be an awful scenario. Think about that. If one person gets sick and the next thing you know, half the newsroom has it, that wouldn't be so good for us, right? So it was figuring out step by step what we needed to do in order to, make sure that everyone was on the same page, that we were all following the same health and safety procedures, and that we were doing it in a way where we'd still be able to tell the news, even if that meant doing it from home, if that was the final case scenario. So, been a lot of changes.
Right. What are some specific safety precautions that you as a reporter have taken?
So with that, I'm a morning reporter. So I also kind of was tasked with something last week, which made things a little bit more difficult. I, as a morning reporter, typically have the same photographer every single day. But a long time ago, my photographer ended up deciding that last week was the week he was going to go on vacation before any of this, kind of arose, right? So he was out on vacation, which meant I was working with a different photographer every single day last week, while the other reporters all got assigned one single photographer, and it just didn't work in my favor because of, an unfortunate situation of when my photographer needed to go on vacation. So with that, typically most reporters are working with one photographer, but again, because of a weird scenario, that didn't work for me last week. But on top of that, I'm driving my own car. I am literally leaving from my house, driving to wherever I need to go live from in the morning, and I'm meeting my photographer at that place. And we are never in contact with one another. So I'm staying in my car. I have a reporter laptop. I'm doing everything from my car. While the photographer is driving the news truck, he or she would pull up on scene and would do all of their edits from their laptop. And so the only thing that we would have to pass back and forth is our microphone. That's the one thing that potentially could spread. So every single time that we deal with that, we always make sure we have gloves on and that we wipe down with like a wipe or hand sanitizer, whatever we have, to make sure that whatever germs may have been on there, that those are being wiped clean. So those are the steps that I've been taking from the field. For the anchors, they are specifically only allowed to go into one door. They're not allowed to touch multiple doors in the building. They have one bathroom that they're allowed to use, and they're staying in that side of the building. And then for everyone else behind the scenes, like the producers, everyone is working from home. So no one actually is coming into the studio besides like the main engineer who obviously has to come into work. He doesn't really have a choice, unfortunately. But most producers are working from home at this point. So there are very limited few people that are actually going into the newsroom, which is good.
Right, that's probably the best thing to do. Has it been hard to find stories, or have people been reaching out to you? Have people been like hesitant because they don't want to come in contact with reporters?
It actually has been very easy finding stories just because there's something new every single day, right? At first we were a little nervous because we were like, how are we going to be reporting on this every single day, potentially for months to come? You know, we just don't know how long this is going to last yet, unfortunately. But it has been fairly easy because at the end of the day, people want to talk. People want to share their stories, and they want to share their concerns or their frustrations with us, which always works in our favor. And right now, news out of anyone is benefiting the most in this, you know, if we're talking about any industry right now, news really has lucked out here because people need us. They need us to be able to share the news with them, you know, whether that's going to a hospital or, you know, a food bank or, you know, what are homeless people doing during this time? What are people with mental disabilities doing? So there's so many different aspects and so many people affected by it that it almost makes it extremely easily to find stories recently because, you know, there's just so many stories to tell.
Right. You said so many people are relying on the news to tell their stories and stuff. So do you feel any added pressure as a reporter to do that? There's so many facts coming at you all the time.
Sure. And, you know, the thing is that people always, in this industry, people always are going to have something to say, right? We have the people that like to sit behind the screens and say negative things to TV reporters. And unfortunately, that's something that's added in this industry that I don't think will ever go away. So it's something as a TV reporter you kind of have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. You're never going to be able to please everyone, and you have to remind yourself of that. But you want to go into each newscast making sure that you are giving the most up-to-date and factual information. And if you don't feel comfortable reporting on something that you don't feel you have enough information on yet, you need to be open and honest with your news director about that. You know, there's been a couple of scenarios where, you know, you get handed this information, but maybe you aren't sure if that information is completely true or not, right? So you have to be open with your news team about that. But for the most part, you know, if you're speaking to an infectious disease doctor or someone like that, I mean, those are people you can trust. Those are the ones that are on the front line right now dealing with this the most. Those are the stories that you should be able to tell, you know, in a way that is going to be able to get across to your audience. But you always want to go through each time that you're going live, you know, read over your notes, have bullet points there, and make sure that those are the things that you're hitting for your newscast, and you're doing it simple. I mean, you know, I'm sure you know, you've heard the saying, kiss, 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 keep it simple, keep it simple. This is beyond true right now with what we're dealing with, because you never want to go crazy in something, because then people will be so confused and they just won't understand. So you want to be able to do it in a way that's going to be easy for, you know, your audience to understand.
Right. So how have you and the other people in the newsroom dealt with the stress of covering this pandemic? I'm sure a lot's going on.
I mean, it's been stressful to say the least, but we recently implemented a new program called Microsoft Teams. So we aren't really using email at the moment, phone calls, you know, if we need to, but we've actually been using this app that is a way for all of us to communicate together. So that if we have a frustration or we are worried about something, that we can share that with everyone and we kind of break that down together. So if you are stressed about something or you are worried about a story, that's a way where we could work together to either solve the problem or figure out a way to move on from it as quickly as possible. You know, and also I'm fortunate in my newsroom, we are all very relatively close to each other. So people are constantly reaching out, sending text messages, making sure that we're okay. And actually, I don't know, this is a good time to say it, but I'm waiting to find out if I am going to test positive for coronavirus or not. I've actually been home for the past 5 days now. So every day I've been getting text messages from people, you know, especially, you know, they're stressed themselves, but I'm sure they can only imagine how I'm feeling sitting at home wondering, you know, do I have the virus myself? So that's been a little stressful as well, to say the least, but we're working together to make it work, you know.
Yeah, I'm so sorry to hear that. That's got to be scary, waiting for
Yeah.
those results. What made you feel the need to get tested? Was everyone in the newsroom getting tested, or did you have symptoms?
So I actually found out a few days ago that I was around someone who had tested positive for coronavirus, but that person didn't show any symptoms. The reason why he got tested is because, unbeknownst to me, I just happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time, unfortunately. But this person happened to come in from abroad and had gotten a text message from a friend saying they had tested positive for coronavirus. So he went and got tested himself, even though he had no symptoms, and he tested positive for it. So really, it made him a carrier of it if he doesn't have any symptoms. So who knows if it was from that specific scenario? It very well might not have been, you know. Right. The other thing is, I've been covering this for, almost 3 weeks now, even longer than that actually, but really heavily covering it for about 3 weeks, going to places where people have tested positive, talking to infectious disease doctors. They could be cured. There's so many different things that, you have to think about here, so many different aspects. So that's kind of, it's worrisome because as a TV reporter, you're always putting yourself out there. I think sometimes people forget that too, that we are going to bring you the news. We're going to the places that, we're saying you probably shouldn't be going to. And we're doing that because you need to know the news. But, where's the line? Where do we draw the line of safety? So that really kicked into gear once people realized that I needed to go get tested for it. What more can we be doing here, to make sure that our reporters are staying safe? But yeah, because of the fact that I'm a TV reporter and I'm going to these places, and because I was around someone who, I was exposed to someone who tested positive for it, those two reasons alone were enough for me to get tested for coronavirus. So now I'm just waiting to find out if I have it or not.
What was the testing process like?
Awful. It was really bad. To be honest, it was probably one of the worst experiences I've ever had to go through. Now, the vetting process itself was relatively simple. I had to call into my local doctor. I spoke to a nurse, and then I spoke to another nurse, and then I spoke to a doctor. So essentially, through that process, they were vetting me to see if I should be worthy enough, I guess, to go get tested for coronavirus. So they were asking me what symptoms I had, which essentially was almost everything in the book. And today has been a lot better than in days past. But, I was having 102 fevers, still am. I haven't been able to kick the fevers yet. Extreme weakness, not being able to breathe by just walking a couple of feet, dry cough is how it all started for me. I thought it was just an annoying, maybe something from allergies. But then it continued to develop. And when I woke up the next morning, it was, I was extremely sick. But with all of that being said, the process, talking to them was, they were all very helpful. The doctor, once I got on the phone with him, he recognized my name and he watches me on the news. So he knew right away that I had been around those stories. And he said, let's just go get you tested just to be safe. And so that day, 30 minutes after that conversation, I waited in a line for about 25 minutes in my car. They handed me a mask and gloves and information on a piece of paper about what to do if you potentially have coronavirus. And then they made sure all of my information matched up, my name, my birthday, whatever. And they had, dressed in full gear. And they had a doctor come and swab my nose with like a plastic type Q-tip. That's how I would explain it. Up my nose so far, it felt like it was in my brain. They held it for 20 seconds. They said they had to do it from 15 to 20 seconds. And they also say that the reason why they do it in the nose, from what I've been reading and what he explained, was that that's just where, if you're going to get the best reading on coronavirus, if someone has it, it would be up in the nasal cavity. So that's why they decided to do it up there. But I did it, and then I drove off. And now they said 3 to 7 days, and we're going on day 4. I haven't heard anything yet. But, now it's just a waiting game until I find out.
Well, looking at you, you can't tell that you're sick at all. Like, you look great.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's another thing, too, is that, you're not going to notice me with like mucus or any of that because those aren't symptoms of coronavirus. So, if you were to look at me right now, you'd probably say she looks healthy to me, but I'm extremely tired and didn't wake up until 12 o'clock today. I mean, that's insane. I usually wake up every day at 2 in the morning for work. But I've been sleeping until 12 o'clock every day. I'm exhausted. I can't lift my head from the pillow. And this is the first time I'm putting makeup on my face in over a week. So while it may not look like it, I'm definitely feeling it for sure.
So has the station given you completely off, or have you still had to do some work from home?
For now, I am completely off and on sick pay because I just don't know at the moment. And I also was so sick this past week. I took off starting Wednesday. So I was off Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of this past week. And I just have not been working at all just because I have been so sick that I haven't been able to. Now, this coming week, I probably will get back into working from home. So I don't know what that means yet, but my news director has told me that I'd be able to work from home at some capacity. We just aren't sure what that will be yet. Obviously, I don't have a camera here, but I do have a phone. So there are ways that we can make it work from home. I just, it's just going to take some finagling to figure out what that might be. But I'll definitely start going back to work starting Monday, but I'll just be working from home.
All right. I hope you have a speedy recovery.
Thank you. Me too.
So, switching gears here, what's a piece of advice that you would give to anyone who's interested in getting into the broadcast journalism field?
That's such a loaded question, right? Because there's so many different aspects to journalism. But if this is something that you want bad enough, I'll never forget when I was at Emerson, I was told, this is not an industry that you go into just because it's, something fun. Yeah, it's something fun and it's a great industry to go into, but it takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of energy out of you. And it also is something, you're going to feel stressed at times. You're going to feel very anxious at times. So, if I were to say anything, it's just you always have to keep your head up and you always have to know, think about 5 steps in front of you because this industry will throw you curveballs left and right. You never know what's next. And that's kind of the exciting thing too, right? You think about it, it's like, this is an incredible industry. Not many people get, people that are working 9 to 5s, they're coming in, they're probably doing similar things every single day. That's not TV, okay? You come in, you're constantly handed a different story every single day, and you're always evolving, right? Even in the last year, the amount of digital journalism side of things that have kind of kicked into gear as well, that's been a big thing for our TV station. But just always thinking about what's next, always having, a head on your shoulders, thinking positive as much as you can, and telling yourself that you will get through whatever hardships you're going through. Because there are times, you come home and you just want to cry into your pillow. Trust me, I've done it more times than not. But, if you really are meant to be in this industry, you know that no matter what is handed to you, you will get through it and you will come out better because of it. So you just got to remind yourself that when you go into something like this, because many people do not last in this industry. And it's true. I've seen so many people drop like flies left and right. First jobs, they realize it's not for them. But if you can get through your first job, which usually is the hardest of all, you will make it in this industry. But you just got to keep telling yourself that you will.
What's the most rewarding part about this industry for you?
The stories. Just the amount of people that I've gotten to meet in this job is just incredible. I mean, the most important thing to me is that when I'm out there telling these stories, that I'm telling it in a way that people can relate to or can understand. I'm not here to confuse someone or make something seem more, confusing than it is. I'm here to be simplistic and tell the stories of the people that want their stories heard, right? That's kind of our goal here. But I've just met the most amazing people. I lived in Peoria, Illinois for a year and a half. And prior to that, I didn't even know where Peoria, Illinois was on a map, But going to that place and living there, you really have a better understanding for something that I never even thought that Ali Reid, me, would be living in the Midwest for a year and a half. And, I kind of shrugged my shoulders, moved to Illinois knowing no one. But it was the best experience of my life. I met the most incredible people. I told the most amazing stories, and that resonates with you. And now, coming to Pennsylvania for my second job, I'm just getting into this. Having to work to gain the trust and respect of the people here is hard because it's a new place all over again. But then you have to remind yourself that you have people from Illinois that are still following you too. So it's cool because you constantly are meeting new people and telling their stories and gaining so much through all of this. It's an exciting process, and it's worth every second of it when you get to meet these people and share those things. So it's definitely very rewarding, to say the least.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, is there anything else you'd like to add about anything about broadcast journalism, about the virus?
Just be safe through all of this. It's hard. I've been joking, you can run, but you can't hide, right? I did everything right. It's not like I was doing anything to put myself in harm's way. I was washing my hands. I was using hand sanitizer. I was following protocol just like we were supposed to at work. I just so happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, unfortunately, and had gotten potentially exposed to coronavirus. Now, I'm hoping that it comes back negative, but you just don't know sometimes. But be as careful as possible. If you can stay in quarantine, please do so. But at the same time, don't forget about the people who are on the front lines, your doctors, your nurses, your police officers, your firefighters. Those are the ones that are still going out every single day and risking their lives. And it's not just them, it's so many other people too. You could name hundreds of jobs, thousands of jobs that are still having to work through all of this. And don't forget about the people that are out of jobs right now too. So there's just a lot, but we'll get through it, and we'll come back stronger than before once we do come through it.
Well, thank you, Ali, for taking the time to talk to me, and thank you for the work you're doing to keep us informed and safe.
Thank you, Natalie. I appreciate it.
And thank all of you for watching this episode of Reporting from the Front Line of a Pandemic. I've been talking with Ali Reid, a reporter at WFMZ in Allentown, Pennsylvania. I'm Natalie Clydesdale.